Hello and welcome, a very warm welcome to the Green Bean. My name's Katie and this is a sewing episode. I'm going to share with you a new dress that I've been making lately. No, it is not the green embroidered dress that I've been working on for approximately 100 years. It's a new project that I've started and finished recently that I'm looking forward to sharing with you. I want to start by telling you how I came up for the concept of this dress. So it's actually based on a dress that I made previously, this green one, which is from McCall's pattern M7948. I made it in plain green linen, and the only modifications I made were an alteration to the neckline to make it a little bit wider so I could just pop it over my head rather than needing to have a closure, and I added some pockets because who doesn't need pockets in their dresses? There are lots of things I love about this dress. I really like the tiered gathered skirt. It's just really nice to swish around in it, and it's a great length, and I really love the boxy shape of the bodice. There are no bust darts here, and that's a really comfortable shape for me to wear. There are, however, some things I don't like as much about this dress. Firstly, the pockets, which I added. They weren't in the pattern. They're not big enough. They don't fit basic things like my phone in without me worrying that it's going to fall out, so the pockets could do with being bigger. The neckline that I changed from the pattern is actually too wide. I went a little bit wider than I wanted to, and I'm never completely comfortable exposing this part of my body. It's something I feel vulnerable about, so yeah, I don't feel completely comfortable with this neckline. And finally, and probably most significantly, it's these flouncy sleeves, which I love, but they are just not practical. They're too bulky for layering, so I can't easily wear a jumper or a cardigan over this dress, which basically limits the seasons in which I can wear it. I'm someone who really feels the cold, so this is very much a summer dress for me, and if you live in the UK, you will know that summer sometimes only lasts about 2 weeks, so it's not a dress that I wear as much as I would like to. The great thing, of course, about making my own clothes is that I can learn lessons from things that I've made before and take them forward into planning new pieces. So, bearing in mind everything I've learned from the green dress I previously made, I sketched this new version with adaptations. So obviously it's going to have deeper pockets, and I plan to make it sleeveless so I can easily layer it, whether that means a cardigan or jumper over the top, or wearing some kind of long sleeve top underneath, or even both, so it can see me through the whole year rather than just summer. It was my intention to just make a slightly smaller crew neck for this dress, one that I could still pull over my head, but as I was sketching I just thought a button placket and a collar might look really cute, especially for layering. I like the idea that my collar will poke out the top of whatever jumper or cardigan I'm wearing, So I'm going with it. I'm going with buttons and a stand-up collar. So now this dress is going to be an amalgamation of two patterns. The original McCall's pattern I used for my green dress, which was M7948, and a shirt that I've made before by Republique du Chiffon, the Nadine shirt, which I've modified for this dress just to remove the bust darts. The fabric I'm using is this gorgeous green and beige gingham linen, which I bought from Ray Stitch. I have always loved a gingham. I love a small check, but sometimes it can skew a little bit towards school uniform, I think. I wore a red gingham dress when I was at school, not a green one, but even so I think green and white gingham can look a little bit school uniformy, so I love the fact that this beige in the check tones it down slightly and makes it look, I think, a little bit more sophisticated. I've done the vast majority of sewing on this project by machine, but there is a little bit that I like to do by hand. I'm just sewing down the collar stand to the back of the neck. It's something that can be done by top stitching, but I often find when my machine is being asked to sew through multiple layers of fabric and interfacing, usually top stitching at some crucial and very visible part of the project is when I will get some kind of thread jam disaster. So I'm trying to avoid that entirely by hand sewing this bit, and I think it gives a really nice, neat finish, one that I couldn't achieve on the sewing machine, even if the sewing machine didn't have a meltdown. I'm using bias binding to finish the armholes, which I cut myself from the gingham fabric so that I would have the option to either turn it under and give a really neat, sharp finish to the armhole. But what I actually decided is I really like how the bias binding looks exposed on the edge, so I'm just going to leave it. The only thing that has done is made me slightly wish I had done a bias cut button placket for the front as well. I really love when you see garments made with checked fabric, whenever there's attention to detail given to the placement of the check, whether it's pattern matching or mix and matching pieces cut on the straight grain or on the bias. I really love details like that. So I'm squirreling that thought away because I've got lots of this fabric left over. I really fell in love with it, so I bought quite a lot. I definitely have enough to make at least one, maybe two more garments, and one of them will be a shirt. So I'm thinking I will do a bias cut button placket for that shirt. Now the dress is all done except for the buttonholes, which I can't make until I've decided which buttons to use. And one of my lovely patrons recently asked me to chat about how I choose buttons. So in the second half of this episode, I'm going to chat about buttons. I'm going to give you a peek at my button collection and show you how I picked the buttons for this dress. I am aware that I have quite a vast collection of buttons. I've collected buttons for as long as I can remember. One of my strongest childhood memories is visiting my grandparents' house and sitting for hours with my grandma's button box, sorting through, organising by shape or colour or texture. All of these amazing buttons that she had accumulated presumably through her lifetime in the same way as I've accumulated buttons. I inherited my grandma's button collection when she died, and I have since accumulated buttons from various places. One of the main contributors was working for 6 years in a craft and haberdashery shop where we sold buttons. So I not only purchased a lot of buttons while I worked there, but quite often people would come and give us their boxes of buttons that a grandparent or an elderly relative had left to them, which they didn't use. So I acquired many buttons in that way as well. And of course, I buy buttons whenever I see ones that I like or when I'm shopping for a specific project, as I'll explain shortly. Buttons. I love buttons. What can I say? So I now am in this situation where I have a vast collection that I always have lots to choose from when I'm looking for something for a project. So the first thing I did when looking for buttons for this dress was go to my button collection. I tipped them all out on the table, had a good rummage through. It's always a lovely moment. It's like a connection back to my grandma, to spend time with her buttons. And when I'm doing this, I'm obviously looking to see if there are any buttons suitable for my project, but a lot of these buttons are singletons. I only have one of them. They're ones that have either fallen off an old garment, or they are the spare one that's come with a garment that's long since been donated or passed on in some way. So I'm not expecting that I will find just the right buttons in my collection. Sometimes it happens, but this is one of the cases where it hasn't happened. But what I did gain from this morning of playing with all the buttons that I have was a sense of what kind of button I want, what size I want it to be, and what colour. In general, I find I mostly like unobtrusive buttons. As much as I love these fun ones that have cute or decorative designs, when you take them away from being just a beautiful button and put them on a garment, I find they often detract from the design of the garment and feel a little bit too much, so I very rarely use them. I tend more towards buttons that are plain wood or horn or more natural looking and neutral. I find them much easier to use. So I had the idea that these buttons needed to be between 10 and 15 millimeters. A pale horn colour or wood was probably going to be the best match for me. and I decided to buy 7. I have a thing, I like my buttons to be in odd numbers, so I always buy them in 5, 7, 9 or 11, depending on the size of them. Obviously, the bigger they are, the fewer I want. So in this case, I went to Textile Garden, who's my favourite place to shop for buttons online, and I browsed her website for buttons that I thought might be a good match for this project. And even though I had a good sense of the size I wanted, the shape and the colour, there's never a guarantee when you're ordering things online of how things are going to look when they come to you. So I ordered a few different options to try out, and even just on opening this package, I think there's a very clear winner here for buttons that look exactly like the ones I had in mind. These little natural horn ones almost perfectly match the neutral in my gingham, so I'm pretty pleased with that choice, and I don't feel in any way like this purchase of extra options is wasted. They will obviously contribute to my button collection, but it means that I will have more options there that I can consider for a project in future, which I'll almost certainly find a use for these buttons as well. Even though I've chosen quite plain and unobtrusive buttons, I think I can add a bit of a fun touch by stitching them on with green thread. I love the option to be playful with buttons, even in the colour thread that you use, or if you've got 3 or 4 holes, or maybe even more, you can do something creative with the stitch pattern that you use in your button as well. And I really love being able to add personal details to your garments, even at such a tiny level that probably nobody will notice. But, well, if you're someone who's got a detail like that on your garment, you can be sure I'm noticing it, so maybe other people notice it as well. But I love taking that amount of care and attention with the things that I make for myself. It's really one of the joys of hand making my clothes for me. And that's it. With the last button sewn on, this dress is completely finished and ready to go into my wardrobe. It's already autumn here, so this dress is already going to prove more versatile than the one that I could not wear with a cardigan. I think I'm going to get a lot of wear out of this over the winter, but also looking forward into the spring and summer next year. I think it's going to be a really useful piece in my wardrobe, and I'm really pleased with how it's turned out. Thank you so much for watching this sewing episode of The Green Bean. If you were hoping for an update on the embroidered dress, well, it will make a comeback soon. I'm still working away steadily and slowly on it, and I'm sure you'll get to see it finished at some point. If you enjoy my videos and would like to support what I'm doing, you can do so by supporting me on Patreon, buying items from my online shop, or simply spreading the word about my videos or my artwork to someone who you think might enjoy them. All of those ways are massively appreciated. So thank you for being here. Take care, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye bye.